At 5:40 a.m. on the morning of the Gaokao, Luo Xinhua posted a photograph in our class group chat. Behind her stood a row of luxury coaches decorated with red banners. On the largest banner were 8 golden words. Tsinghua University Special Talent Selection. Luo Xinhua held a stack of admission cards and smiled sweetly at the camera. Everyone who registered for the special selection must arrive at the East Exhibition Center before 7. Those who pass today's assessment will be directly admitted to Tsinghua University. There's no need to take the ordinary Gaokao anymore. More than 30 students immediately began replying. Thank you, Xinhua. We're about to become Tsinghua students. Only fools would still squeeze into an ordinary examination hall. My childhood friend, Jiang Yuza, tagged me. Su Qinghe, are you still pretending to be noble? Xinhua saved an application place for you. Don't waste her kindness. I sat inside my father's taxi, watching the messages fill the screen. Outside the window, the streets of Haicheng were still covered in pale morning mist. My father glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Are your classmates taking another examination? No, I turned off the group notifications. They're walking into a scam. In my previous life, I had gone with them. I had believed Luo Xinhua when she claimed that Tsinghua University was holding a confidential special selection examination on the same morning as the Gaokao. Our homeroom teacher, Lu Wenbin, supported her. The vice principal personally stamped the registration forms. The promotional materials contained the university emblem, official-looking signatures, and photographs of famous professors. More importantly, Luo Xinhua's father was Vice Principal Luo Guoqiang. No one believed a vice principal would gamble with the futures of his own students, so I helped collect the application forms. I transferred the registration deposits. I uploaded everyone's identity documents. Because I was the study committee representative and the highest-scoring student in the class, my participation convinced almost everyone else to join. We arrived at the East Exhibition Center at 6:30. Our phones were sealed in plastic bags. Our identity cards and Gaokao admission tickets were collected for verification. Then we were locked inside a windowless conference hall. There were no Tsinghua University professors. There was no special selection examination. The so-called assessment was run by a private training company that had already been investigated for admissions fraud in 3 other provinces. By the time the police arrived, the first Gaokao subject was over. Luo Xinhua was nowhere to be found. She had used a rear exit to leave the exhibition center and secretly entered the real Gaokao examination hall. Without me competing against her, she became the highest-scoring student in our class. When furious parents demanded an explanation, Luo Guoqiang produced the payment records. Every registration fee had passed through my bank account. Every application form contained my electronic signature. Every student said they had joined because I recommended the program. Luo Xinhua cried in front of the cameras. Qing had told us the program was real. My father, and I trusted her too. She used our school's name to deceive everyone. Lu Wenbin supported her statement. The school expelled me. Parents surrounded my home. My mother lost her job. My father's taxi was smashed. For 3 months, I searched for evidence proving that Luo Xinhua and her father had organized the scam. The night I finally obtained the original contracts, Jiang Yuza and Fang Yuding stopped me in the school stairwell. They demanded that I surrender the evidence. Jiang Yuza said Luo Xinhua had already suffered enough. Fang Yuding said exposing the truth would not restore anyone's examination results. During the argument, Jiang Yuza grabbed my bag. I lost my balance. I fell down 3 flights of concrete stairs as my blood spread across the cold floor. The evidence disappeared from my hand. The final thing I heard was Fang Yuding's trembling voice. Yuza, what do we do? Jiang Yuza answered, after a long silence, call it an accident. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 3 days before the Gaokao. This time, I had immediately verified the special examination. With Tsinghua University, their admissions office gave me a clear written response. Tsinghua University has not organized any special selection activity in Haicheng. During the Gaokao period, any organization claiming to offer guaranteed admission is fraudulent. I sent the response to the Education Bureau, the police, and Tsinghua University's legal department. Then I booked a car to the real Gaokao examination center. I had already warned my classmates once. Those who believed me had arranged their own transportation. Those who chose Luo Xinyue could enjoy the future she had prepared for them. At 5:43, Luo Xinyue tagged me again. "Qinghe, the final coach is leaving in 10 minutes. This is your last chance." I typed 4 words. "I'll take the Gaokao." The group chat fell silent. 2 seconds later, Jiang Yuza sent a voice message. "Sukingil, how long are you going to keep acting?" Xinyue begged her father to reserve this opportunity for our class. She stayed awake all night preparing admission cards. And breakfast. Even if you're jealous of her, you shouldn't insult everyone's choice. Luo Xinyue immediately replied, "Yuza, don't criticize her. Qinghe has always been cautious. Maybe she thinks ordinary students like us don't deserve to enter Jinghua University through special selection." Her voice sounded hurt. The group exploded. "She thinks she's better than us. Because her grades are high. Let her take the Gaokao alone. When we receive our early admissions, she'll regret it. Don't beg us for help." Afterward, I stared at the familiar insults. In my previous life, the same people had begged me to submit their applications. After the scam was exposed, they claimed I had forced them. This time, I took screenshots of every message. Then I replied, "I have verified the program. With Jinghua University, it does not exist. Attend at your own risk." Luo Xinyue answered, "Within seconds. The program is confidential. Ordinary admissions staff wouldn't know about it." Lu Wenbin appeared in the chat. "Su Qinghe, stop spreading panic. Vice Principal Luo personally approved this program. If your irresponsible comments affect other students' performance, the school will hold you accountable." I smiled. He had voluntarily provided exactly the statement I needed. I saved the message. Then I muted the group. My father's taxi turned onto the road leading to the real examination center. Behind us, 3 luxury coaches carried my classmates toward an examination that had never existed. At 6:10, I arrived outside Haiqing No. 7 High School. The examination center would not open for another hour. Only police officers, security guards, and a few anxious parents had arrived. My 2 friends, Tang Miao and He Nian, were waiting beneath a tree. The moment they saw me, Tang Miao ran over. "You were right." She showed me her phone. "I called Jinghua University too. They said the special selection is fake." He Nian looked pale. "My mother almost forced me onto Luo Xinyue as coach." "How did you convince her?" "I played your recording from the admissions office." She hesitated. "Should we call the others?" "I already warned them." "Maybe they didn't believe you." "Because of the argument in the group." "Tang Miao Flawen. If we call their parents directly—" "No," I interrupted her. In my previous life, I had tried to save everyone. I had explained the suspicious contract. I had questioned the unusual examination time. I had even offered to pay for several classmates to take taxis to the real examination center. They accused me of sabotaging their opportunity. Fang Yuding leaked my private warnings into the group and claimed I was jealous of Luo Xinyue. Jiang Yuza publicly ordered me to apologize. Lu Wenbin threatened to remove my merit student status. Kindness offered to people determined to misunderstand you was not kindness. It was permission for them to hurt you again. "One warning is enough," I said. "They have parents, phones, and the ability to verify information. They made their choice." Tang Miao looked at me for several seconds. "You really have changed." I looked toward the rising sun. I finally learned to respect other people's fate. At 6:18, my phone rang. Fang Yuding. I answered. Her nervous voice came through the speaker. "Qinghe, are you really not coming?" "No, but the coach is almost leaving." "Then you should get on." She lowered her voice. "I saw the screenshot you sent. Is the program really fake?" "Yes." There was a long silence. Then she said, "But Xinyue promised that everyone who attends will receive at least an interview opportunity. That promise means nothing. A taxi to your examination center costs almost 100 yuan. I'll book one for you." My answer was exactly the same as in my previous life. Back then, Fang Yuding had accepted. Halfway to the examination center, Luo Xinyue called her and promised a free tablet for every participant. Fang Yuding ordered the driver to turn around. Later, She claimed I had tried to prevent her from entering Tsinghua University. This time, I still gave her one final chance. Send me your location. I'll pay for the car. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared. Finally, she replied in the class group instead of speaking privately. Everyone, Sukingil, just tried to bribe me not to attend the special selection. She offered to pay for my taxi. A screenshot of our conversation appeared below her message. Jiang Yuza immediately responded, I knew it. She wants everyone else to fail so she can become the city's top scorer. Luo Xinyue sent a crying emoji. Qinghe, if you dislike me, you can target me. Please don't destroy everyone's future. Fang Yiding's voice returned through my phone. You can't blame me. I don't want everyone to think I'm secretly working with you. I looked at her name on the screen. In my previous life, she had watched me fall down the stairs. She had chosen silence, because telling the truth might damage Jiang Yuza. Fang Yuding. What? You don't need my car anymore. I hung up. She called back twice. I did not answer. Tang Miao read the group chat over my shoulder. She sold you out for a free tablet? For the possibility of a free tablet. He Yan shook her head. Is she insane? No, I slipped my phone into my pocket. She simply believes betraying me is cheaper than verifying the truth. At 6:30, Luo Xinyue posted a video. Students filled the coaches, wearing new white shirts printed with Tsinghua University's emblem. Breakfast boxes sat on every seat. Jiang Yuza stood in the aisle and raised his fist. Today, Class 3 enters Tsinghua University together. The students cheered. Luo Xinyue turned the camera toward an empty seat in the first row. A card bearing my name had been placed on it. Qinghe, we saved the best seat for you. You still have time to change your mind. I replied, with a photograph of the real examination center. No thank you. The group chat filled with laughing emojis. Someone wrote, take a good look at that examination gate. You'll be standing there for 2 days. While we're already university students, I saved the message. They would remember it soon enough. The following events were reconstructed from police statements, video recordings, and the messages my classmates sent before their phones were confiscated. At 6:55, the coaches arrived at the East Exhibition Center. The building had been abandoned for almost 2 years. However, red carpets covered the cracked entrance. Temporary banners hid the rusted signs. Several young employees wore suits and badges printed with Tsinghua University's emblem. They greeted the students with applause. Luo Xinyue stepped off the first coach like a celebrity. A man named Qian Shiming personally welcomed her. He was the owner of Shanghai Education, the company running the fake program. He was also Luo Guoqiang's brother-in-law. Student Luo Xinyue has made an outstanding contribution, he announced. She recommended 36 excellent candidates. All of you should thank her. The students applauded. Jiang Yuza looked at Luo Xinyue with open admiration. Fang Yuding recorded everything for the group chat. The venue is amazing. Some people claimed it was fake because they were jealous. Tan Miao ziplit. Before I could stop her. Why is a top university holding an examination in an abandoned exhibition center? Fang Yuding immediately sent a photograph of a staff badge. Can't you see the university emblem? He Nian typed, anyone can print an emblem. Jiang Yuza answered, stop trying to frighten us. Go stand in line for your ordinary examination. At 7, the staff collected everyone's phones. They explained that the examination questions were confidential. Each student was required to surrender an identity card, Gaokao admission ticket, and mobile phone. A few students hesitated. Luo Xinyue smiled. Tsinghua University's selection questions are national secrets. If you can't follow basic confidentiality rules, you don't deserve admission. Jiang Yuza handed over his belongings first. The others followed. Fang Yuding sent one last message before sealing her phone. See you. After I become a Tsinghua student, the phones were placed in numbered boxes. The identity documents were carried into a locked office. Then the students received contracts. The first page stated that every participant had voluntarily abandoned the ordinary Gaokao session that conflicted with the selection. The second page required a training management fee of 88,000 yuan. After admission, the third page authorized Shanghai Education to apply for education loans on the student's behalf. A boy named Chun Hao raised his hand. Why is there a loan authorization? Chen Shiming smiled. It's only a standard clause. You'll receive a 300,000 yuan university scholarship. The fee will be deducted from that scholarship. Does that mean we don't have to pay? Of course. Luo Xinyu signed first. In reality, she used a different contract. Her version contained no loan authorization. She had signed it privately the night before. Seeing her signature, everyone stopped hesitating. At 7:15, 36 students signed. Chen Shiming's employees collected the contracts and locked the doors. The students were divided into 3 rooms. There were no clocks. The windows had been covered with black curtains. A recorded announcement began playing. The special selection will start at 9:30. Chen Hao stood. 9:30. The Gaokao Chinese examination starts at 9. If we wait until 9:30 and something goes wrong, we'll miss it completely. A staff member answered coldly. Students who doubt the program may withdraw. Return my identity card. You'll receive it after completing the withdrawal procedure. How long will that take? Approximately 3 hours. The room became restless. Jiang Yuza stood and faced everyone. Stop panicking. Xinyua's father is the vice principal. Would he deceive us? Luo Xinyua nodded. My father has already confirmed the program. With Jinghua University's leadership, the delayed starting time is part of a psychological assessment. You're being tested on whether you trust the university. The students gradually quieted down. No one wanted to appear cowardly. No one wanted to be the first person to leave a supposed path to guaranteed admission. At the real examination center, I looked at the time. 7:20, the first stage of the trap had closed. At 7:25, Lu Wenbin arrived outside the examination center. His shirt was soaked with sweat. When he saw only Tang Miao, He Nian, and me from our class, his expression changed. Where are the others? I looked at him. You know where they are. They're attending this special selection. Then why are you 3 here? To take the Gaokao. His face darkened. Didn't I tell you that the school recognizes this special program? You did. Then why did you ignore my instructions? Because Jinghua University says the program is fraudulent. I showed him the official email. He glanced at it and immediately looked away. This could be an automatic reply. It includes the admissions director's signature. Universities have many departments. The person who answered you may not know about a confidential project. His response was identical to Luo Xinyua's. It was no longer possible to pretend he had been innocently deceived. I turned on the recording function in my pocket. Teacher Lu, did you personally verify the project? He hesitated. Vice Principal Luo handled the communication. So you didn't verify it? The school leadership approved it. Did you read the contracts? You're a student. Why are you questioning me like an investigator? He lowered his voice. Delete the messages you sent in the class group. If anything happens, your comments could be interpreted as malicious interference. Anything such as what? Nothing will happen. His eyes shifted away. At 7:31, his phone rang. The caller was Luo Guoqiang. Lu Wenbin walked several steps away, but the morning was quiet enough for me to hear parts of the conversation. What? They've already signed. Then keep them inside until the payment verification is finished. No. Su Qinghao is here. Yes. She took screenshots. I'll handle her. He ended the call and turned around. For a second, panic was visible on his face. Then he forced a smile. Qinghe, give me your phone. Why? You've been spreading unverified information. I need to prevent you from disturbing other candidates. My phone contains my electronic admission ticket. I'll hold it until you enter the examination building. No, his smile disappeared. I'm your homeroom teacher, and I'm a Gaokao candidate. I stepped backward. You have no right to confiscate my phone. Tang Miao and He Nian stood beside me. Several parents nearby began watching us. Lu Wenbin lowered his voice. You have always been the most sensible student in the class. Don't destroy your future over a misunderstanding. The sentence made me laugh. In my previous life, he had said exactly the same thing, when he ordered me to accept responsibility for collecting the registration fees. Teacher Lu, my future is the reason I won't listen to you. His phone rang again. This time, he answered in front of us. A boy's panicked voice came through the speaker. Teacher Lu, they took our identity cards. The examination hasn't started. They won't let us leave. It was Chunhao. Behind him, students were shouting. Lu Wenbin's face turned white. Where is Luo Xinyue? She went to the restroom 20 minutes ago and never came back. I looked at the time. 7:42. In my previous life, Luo Xinyue had used the staff corridor at 7:35. A private car took her to the real examination center. She arrived before 8:30. This time, the police had already received my report. Whether she could leave would depend on how quickly they acted. Chunhao continued shouting, Teacher Lu, call the police. I already did. The words left my mouth. Before Lu Wenbin could answer, he spun toward me. What did you say? I reported Shanghai education 3 days ago. You, his voice cracked. You had no right. The parents around us began murmuring. I looked directly at him. Why are you afraid of the police if the program is legitimate? He could not answer. At 7:35, Luo Xinyue left the examination room using the excuse of stomach pain. Qian Shiming led her through a staff corridor. A white car waited outside the rear exit. Her real Gaokao admission ticket, an identity card were inside her handbag. She had prepared everything. The other students would remain locked inside until, after 9, she would reach the real examination center, take the Gaokao, and become the highest-scoring student in the class. Afterward, she could claim she had withdrawn from the special selection because she discovered suspicious contract clauses. The students who missed the Gaokao would hate Shanghai education. No one would suspect that she had helped design the entire plan. That was what happened in my previous life. This time, the rear gate was blocked by 2 police vehicles. The moment Luo Xinyue stepped outside, officers surrounded her. She froze. Qian Shiming turned and ran. He made it less than 20 meters before an officer knocked him to the ground. Luo Xinyue attempted to return to the building. An officer stopped her. Are you a participant? Yes. Why are you leaving through a staff exit? I felt sick. Where are you going? To the hospital. The officer looked at the examination supplies in her transparent bag. Why are you carrying a Gaokao admission ticket? Her expression changed. Inside the building, shouting grew louder. Someone had discovered that Luo Xinyue was missing. Jiang Yuza kicked the examination room door until the cheap lock broke. Students rushed into the corridor. They saw Luo Xinyue standing beside the police vehicle, with her real admission ticket. For several seconds, no one spoke. Jiang Yuza slowly walked toward her. Why do you have that? Luo Xinyue forced herself to remain calm. My father told me to keep it as a backup. Why were you leaving? I was going to verify the program. At the real Gaokao examination center? No, you changed your clothes. Under her white promotional shirt, she wore the school uniform required by our examination center. Her stationery bag was fully prepared. The truth was too obvious. Fang Yuding shoved through the crowd. You plan to take the Gaokao? Luo Xinyue shook her head. I can explain. You told us trusting the program was part of the assessment. You were going to leave us here. The students erupted. Jiang Yuza grabbed Luo Xinyue's shoulders. Did you know it was fake? Let go of me. Answer me. Police officers separated them. At that moment, employees inside the building began trying to escape. Several carried bags filled with cash and student contracts. Other officers entered through the main doors. The entire exhibition center descended into chaos. One employee attempted to burn documents in a metal trash can. The fire alarm began screaming. Sprinklers released freezing water across the hallway. Students ran in every direction. Fang Yuding slipped and fell. Chunhao grabbed a box containing the confiscated phones and threw it onto the floor. Plastic bags scattered. Everyone searched frantically for their belongings. Jiang Yuza found his phone and called Lu Wenbin. That was the call we heard outside the real examination center. At 7:48, Luo Xinyue finally broke down. She screamed at Qian Shiming, who was being held against a police car. You promised I would be gone. Before they found out, you said they wouldn't realize until 9. Every student heard her. Jiang Yuza stared at her as though he had never seen her before. What do you mean? Luo Xinyue covered her mouth. But it was too late. Qian Shiming shouted back. Your father designed the schedule. He said once Su Qinghe missed the examination. "You be first in the class." He told me you would bring at least 30 students. "Why are you blaming me now?" Silence fell over the courtyard. Then Jiang Yuza laughed. It sounded worse than crying. "So that was the reason." He looked at Luo Xinhua. "You didn't bring us here because you wanted to help us. We were just tools." She shook her head desperately. "Yuza, listen to me. I never wanted to hurt you. You wanted all of us to miss the Gaokao. I only needed Su Qinghe to miss it." Her confession echoed through the courtyard. More than 30 students went completely still. Luo Xinhua realized what she had said, but she could not take the words back. At 7:50, the police began checking the students' identities. The students assumed they would be released immediately. Instead, officers discovered that many identity cards and admission tickets were missing. Qian Shiming had placed them inside 2 safes. One safe was found in the office. The other had already been loaded into a van. The van driver had escaped. During the raid, without their identity cards and admission tickets, the students could not enter the Gaokao examination center. They surrounded Qian Shiming. "Where is the van? Call the driver. Give us our documents." Qian Shiming wiped water from his face. "I don't know." Jiang Yuza punched him. Police dragged Jiang Yuza back. "You're wasting time by attacking him." An officer obtained the driver's phone number. No one answered. At 7:57, Fang Yuding sent me a private message. "Qinghe, help us. You knew this would happen." I read the message. Without replying, another arrived. "Please call the examination center. Tell them to wait for us." Then Jiang Yuza called. I declined. He called again. I declined again. He sent a voice message. "Su Qinghe, this isn't the time to be petty. More than 30 people are going to miss the Gaokao. You reported the program, so the police must listen to you. Tell them to release us." I finally replied, "The police are investigating fraud involving student identities and loan contracts. I cannot order them to ignore procedure." He immediately sent another message. "You deliberately timed the report. You wanted us to be trapped." I looked at the screen in disbelief. I had warned them. I had shown them the official response. I had offered Fang Yuding a car. Yet the moment their choice produced consequences, they still found a way to blame me. I typed, "I reported the scam 3 days ago. Luo Xinhua chose the time and place. You chose to attend. Take responsibility for your own decision." He began typing. I blocked him. At 8:05, the real examination center opened its gates. Candidates formed long lines. Lu Wenbin stood beside the security barrier, calling parents one after another. His voice became increasingly desperate. Finally, he grabbed my arm. "Qinghe, contact the officer handling your report. Ask them to return the students' documents first. The missing safe hasn't been found. They can issue temporary certificates. Not within an hour. Then call Jinghua University." "Why?" "Tell them the students were deceived by a program using their name. Ask them to provide special admission opportunities." I stared at him. Even now, he was searching for a shortcut. "Teacher Lu, the university owes them nothing. They're your classmates. They were my classmates when they insulted me too." His fingers tightened. "You're cold-blooded." I pulled my arm free. "You knew the program had not been independently verified. You ordered us to attend anyway. You should think about your own responsibility." His face twitched. "Do you have evidence?" I raised my phone. I recorded our conversation. All color disappeared from his face. At 8:12, a police officer called me. They had found the missing van outside a hotel. The driver had abandoned it. The safe was still inside. Officers were returning the documents to the exhibition center. The distance between the exhibition center and the various Gaokao sites ranged from 10 to 18 kilometers. Even if the documents were distributed immediately, most students would not arrive. Before 9, Lu Wenbin heard the news and nearly collapsed. "You have to think of something." I already did. "What?" I came to the correct examination center. I turned toward the security gate. He shouted behind me, "Sukingen! If they all fail, can you live with yourself?" I stopped. In my previous life, when I begged him to tell the truth, he had said, "Every adult must accept the consequences of their choices." I looked back. They chose the special selection. Respect their choice. Then I enter the examination center. At 8:23, the second safe returned to the exhibition center. The students crowded around the police. Officers distributed the identity documents as quickly as possible. Some students discovered their admission tickets had been damaged by water. Others had been placed in the wrong envelopes. Parents, who arrived at the scene, screamed at the organizers. Luo Xinyue's mother, Sun Miling, rushed out of a black car. She ignored the other students and ran directly toward her daughter. Xinyue, are you hurt? My admission ticket. Luo Xinyue grabbed her mother. Take me to the examination center now. Sun Miling pulled her toward the car. Jiang Yuza blocked them. What about us? She glared at him. Get out of the way. Your family organized this. My daughter was deceived too. Jiang Yuza laughed bitterly. She had her real admission ticket in her bag. She was leaving through the rear exit. Sun Miling's expression changed. Then she pushed him aside. My daughter's future is more important than arguing with you. Those words destroyed the final trace of restraint among the students. Fang Yuding grabbed Sun Miling's hair. Chen Hao kicked the car door. Several boys surrounded Luo Xinyue. Police struggled to separate everyone. The fight delayed them by another 10 minutes. At 8:38, Sun Miling finally drove away. With Luo Xinyue, the roads surrounding the Gaokao sites were heavily controlled. Their car became trapped behind a traffic barrier. Luo Xinyue jumped out and ran. Her examination center was 4 kilometers away. She removed her shoes and sprinted barefoot down the wet road. At 8:55, I sat in my assigned seat. The invigilator checked my identity. I placed my pens neatly on the desk. Outside the window, the sky had become bright. The classroom was quiet. In my previous life, I had spent this moment pounding on the locked exhibition center door. I remember the suffocating fear. I remembered watching the clock move past 9. I remembered realizing that 12 years of effort had vanished. Because I trusted people who never cared about my future. This time, I was where I belonged. At 8:58, Luo Xinyue reached her examination center. The gate stood less than 100 meters away. She could see security officers preparing to close it. She screamed, "Wait! Please wait!" Her feet were bleeding. Her hair clung to her face. The school belle, who always appeared perfectly dressed, now looked like someone dragged from a storm. The security guard saw her. "Hurry!" She ran faster. 20 meters. 10 meters. 5. At exactly 9, the gate closed. Luo Xinyue crashed against the metal bars. "Open it! I'm a candidate." The guard shook his head. "You're late. I was involved in a police investigation. You must contact the examination authority. My father is a vice principal. That doesn't change the regulations." She grabbed the bars. "You don't understand. I have to take the examination." Without the Gaokao, she had nothing. The fake special admission certificate her father promised did not exist. Her grades were not high enough to enter a top university through any other route. The plan had been designed to destroy my future. Instead, it closed the gate on hers. Inside my examination room, the bell rang. The invigilator opened the sealed package. The Chinese examination paper was distributed. I wrote my name in the correct box. Then I began answering the questions. At 11:30, the Chinese examination ended. When I left the building, hundreds of parents waited beyond the barriers. My father stood near the front. The moment he saw me, he raised a bottle of water. "How was it?" "Good." "Were the questions difficult?" "Not especially." He smiled so widely that his eyes nearly disappeared. Then we heard shouting from the other side of the road. Several coaches had arrived. My classmates stepped down one by one. Most of them had missed the entire Chinese examination. A few students, whose examination centers were nearby, arrived during the final hour, but they had been too panicked to complete much. Parents followed them. Some were crying, some were shouting into phones. Others had already gone to the school to demand an explanation. Fang Yuding saw me. She rushed across the road. "Sukingen!" My father stepped in front of me. She stopped and immediately began crying. "You knew the police would raid the place. Why didn't you tell us? I told you the program was fake. You didn't tell us they would confiscate our documents. I had never attended it in this life. Her expression froze for a second. Then she shouted, "You still should have tried harder. You could have called my mother. You could have come to the coach and stopped me. You could have reported it earlier. I reported it 3 days ago. Then why did the police wait until today? I don't control their investigation." She grabbed her hair. "I missed 150 points. My life is over." Behind her, Jiang Yuza approached. His uniform was wrinkled. There was dried blood on his knuckles. He stared at me with red eyes. "Are you happy now?" "Yes." He seemed shocked by my answer. I continued. "I entered the examination hall on time. I completed my paper. My parents are safe. Of course I'm happy. You watched all of us fall into a trap. You defended Luo Xingyue every time I questioned the program. Because I trusted her. That was your choice. She lied to us, and I told you she was lying." His face twisted. "You always have an answer. Because the truth is simple." I looked at him calmly. "You want a guaranteed admission. Without taking the Gaokao. You wanted to believe Luo Xingyue because she made you feel special. You attacked anyone who threatened that fantasy. Now the fantasy is gone. That has nothing to do with me." His hand rose. My father caught his wrist. "You touch my daughter, and I'll call the police." Jiang Yuza stared at him. Then his arm fell. Lu Wenbin arrived moments later. Parents surrounded him immediately. "Why did you approve the program? Did the school verify it? Who collected the money?" "My son missed the Gaokao. Because of you." Lu Wenbin raised both hands. "Please calm down. I was also deceived. Vice Principal Luo handled the program. I only passed along information." Fang Yiding pointed at me. Su Qinghe knew it was fake. Everyone turned. For a moment, I saw the future from my previous life approaching again. The accusations, the anger, the need for a convenient scapegoat. But this time, I was ready. I connected my phone to the portable speaker my father kept in his taxi. Lu Wenbin's recorded voice played clearly. "Vice Principal Luo personally approved this program. Delete the messages you sent in the class group." Then another segment played. "They've already signed. Then keep them inside until the payment verification is finished." The crowd became silent. Lu Wenbin's face turned gray. I displayed Tsinghua University's official response. The timestamp showed that I had sent it to the class group before the coaches departed. Then I showed Fang Yuding's leaked screenshot. My message was clear. The program is fake. I'll pay for your taxi. Go to the real examination center. Parents slowly turned toward their children. A woman looked at her son. "She warned you." The boy lowered his head. Another father opened the group chat and saw the insults directed at me. His expression changed from anger to disbelief. "You cursed her because she told you the truth." No one answered. I looked at the crowd. I warned the class. I reported the program. I offered to help the people closest to me. They rejected every warning. "I will cooperate with the investigation, but I will not accept responsibility for choices I did not make." For the first time, no one could force the blame onto me. That afternoon, Haiqing No. 1 High School released a statement. It claimed the special selection had been privately promoted by several students and parents. The school denied officially approving the event. Luo Guoqiang was described as a parent acting in his personal capacity rather than as vice principal. Lu Wenbin was said to have shared information without understanding its source. The statement never mentioned the school's stamp on the application forms. It never mentioned the classroom meeting, where teachers encouraged students to register. It never mentioned the commissions. The final paragraph warned students against spreading unverified accusations that could damage the school's reputation. I read the statement inside my bedroom. After completing the afternoon examination, Tang Miao sent an angry voice message. "They're trying to erase everything." He Nian added. Someone deleted the original registration notice from the school website. I opened my computer. I expected that. In my previous life, the school had deleted every document. Before blaming me, this time, I had downloaded the website archive. I had saved the registration notice. I had recorded Lu Wenbin's instructions. I also had the transfer records showing that registration deposits were sent to an account owned by Shunkai Education. More importantly, I had obtained something new. One of the police officers had contacted me after the morning examination. The investigation revealed that Shanghai Education paid Luo Guoqiang 20,000 yuan for every student recruited. Lu Wenbin received 3,000 yuan per student. Our class alone represented more than 800,000 yuan in commissions. I organized the evidence into a timeline. Then I posted it using my real name. The title was simple. I warned my class about a fake admission test. Our school ordered me to stay silent. I did not insult anyone. I did not exaggerate. I included screenshots, recordings, official responses, and registration documents. Within 10 minutes, the post spread across Haiqing. Within an hour, national education accounts began sharing it. Parents from other schools recognized Shanghai Education. Some said they had paid similar deposits. Others produced contracts containing the same loan clauses. The number of victims grew from 36 to more than 400. That evening, Tsinghua University released an official statement. It denied any relationship with Shanghai Education. It announced legal action against all individuals who had used the university's name and emblem. The Haiqing Education Bureau suspended Luo Guoqiang and Lu Wenbin. The school deleted its earlier statement. Then it published a new one claiming it would fully cooperate with the investigation. People mocked the sudden change. The same classmates who had cursed me began deleting their messages. Jiang Yuza removed every post praising Luo Xinhua. Fang Yuding sent me a friend request. I rejected it. At 10 that night, Luo Xinhua posted a video. She sat in a hospital bed, with bandages around her feet. Her face was pale. I sincerely apologized to my classmates. I was also deceived by the adults around me. I believe my father had arranged a legitimate program. I never intended to harm anyone. Tears rolled down her cheeks. If Su Qinghe had shown me the official response privately instead of humiliating me in the class group, none of this would have happened. The comments section immediately turned toward me. Some strangers asked why I had not warned her more gently. Others said top students often lacked empathy. I watched the video twice. Then I uploaded Luo Xinhua's confession from the exhibition center. I only needed Su Qinghe to miss the examination. Qian Shiming's voice followed. Your father said once Su Qinghe missed the examination, you'd be first in the class. The public reaction reversed. Within minutes, Luo Xinhua deleted her video. It was already too late. After the Gaokao ended, the students, who had attended the fake selection, gathered outside Luo Xinhua's hospital room. Their parents came. With them, police officers stood in the corridor to prevent violence. Jiang Yuza waited near the door for 3 hours. When Luo Xinhua finally emerged, he blocked her path. Did you ever care what happened to me? She looked exhausted. This isn't the place. Answer me. Yuza. Everyone is watching. You used to like being watched. His voice shook. You wanted everyone to see you as kind and generous. You gave us breakfast. You printed shirts. You told us we would enter university together. All while you planned to leave through the back door. Luo Xinhua lowered her voice. My father forced me. You said you only needed Su Qinghe to miss the examination. I was angry. You had your Gaokao admission ticket ready. I became afraid. After arriving, Jiang Yuza laughed. You still think I'm stupid? Fang Yuding stepped forward. My family paid 88,000 yuan. The bank says the loan application has already been submitted. Return the money. Luo Xinhua looked away. I didn't receive it. Your father received commission. That has nothing to do with me. The moment she said those words, the hallway erupted. The parents shouted. Someone threw a water bottle. Police moved between them. Luo Xinhua covered her face and screamed, You signed voluntarily. No one forced you. Her mask finally disappeared. You all wanted guaranteed admission. You were happy when you thought you could avoid the Gaokao. Why are you blaming me now? The students fell silent. She had spoken the truth, but it did not save her. They had been greedy. She had used that greed deliberately. Both facts could exist at the same time. Jiang Yuza stared at her. Then he stepped backward. I gave up the Gaokao because I trusted you. Luo Xinhua laughed bitterly. No, you did it because you thought I could give you a shortcut. He raised his hand before he could strike her. Police restrained him. The scene was recorded by dozens of phones. By evening, the video was online. the former school belle, and her most loyal defender were now publicly blaming each other. I watched only the first minute. Then I closed the page. Their collapse no longer interested me. I still had university applications to prepare. The Gaokao results were released 23 days later. My parents sat beside me at the dining table. My father refreshed the page repeatedly. My mother held my hand so tightly that my fingers hurt. When the result finally appeared, no one spoke. Chinese, 143. Mathematics, 150. English, 146. Science, 292. Total, 731. My father leaned toward the screen. 731. My mother began crying. I stared at the number. In my previous life, my score had never existed. I had missed the examinations. I had spent the following months trying to prove that I had not destroyed everyone's future. This time, the result belonged entirely to me. At 6 a.m, Liu Wenbin's former class group came alive. The education system automatically released everyone's scores. Tang Miao scored 686. He Nian scored 671. Both had enough points for excellent universities. The students who attended the fake selection had lost the entire Chinese examination. Many performed badly in later subjects because their mental state had collapsed. Jiang Yuze, once expected to score above 650, received 438. Fang Yuding scored 306. Chen Hao scored 401. Several students did not reach the undergraduate admission line. Luo Xinyue received 287. She had missed Chinese and performed poorly on every later subject. Her supposed special admission certificate was declared fraudulent. She had no university place. At 6:15, Fang Yuding appeared outside my apartment. She had lost weight. Her eyes were swollen. The moment she saw me, she began crying. "Qinghe, lend me money to repeat the year. My parents spent all their savings on the fake program. They said they won't pay for another year of school." I looked at her silently. I know I was wrong. She grabbed my sleeve. "I shouldn't have leaked our conversation. I shouldn't have insulted you. But I was confused. Everyone believed Xinyue. You didn't believe her. When you called me privately," her fingers froze. "You knew something was wrong. You chose to expose my warning. Because you wanted her approval. I was afraid of being isolated. So you isolated me instead." She began crying harder. "We were friends. In my previous life, you watched me die." The words escaped quietly. Her face became pale. "What?" I removed her hand from my sleeve. "You don't need to understand. Qinghe, please. I'll repay you. My parents lent your family money. Before, that was between our parents. You're so cruel." I almost smiled. People always called boundaries cruelty when kindness was no longer available to them. "Fang Yuding, you don't regret betraying me. You regret choosing the losing side." I entered the building. She continued calling my name. I never looked back. The investigation lasted 2 months. Luo Guoqiang and Qian Shiming were charged with fraud, illegal collection of personal information, and interfering with the national examination order. Police recovered part of the registration money. Most families still suffered heavy losses. Liu Wenbin admitted receiving commissions. He claimed he believed the program was legitimate. The payment records and recorded conversations proved otherwise. He was dismissed. His teaching qualification was revoked. Haiqing No. 1 High School removed every promotional photograph involving the special selection. The principal publicly apologized to the students. No one accepted the apology. Jiang Yuze's parents enrolled him in a repeat school. I heard that he could no longer concentrate. Whenever a teacher mentioned special admissions, he became furious. He blamed Luo Xinyue. Then he blamed me. Finally, he blamed his parents for not stopping him. He blamed everyone except the person who had typed those messages and boarded the coach. Luo Xinyue's family sold their apartment and cars to pay legal fees and compensation. Her mother tried to send her abroad. The visa application was rejected because of the ongoing investigation. One afternoon, she waited outside my home. Her feet had healed, but faint scars remained. "You won." She looked at the admission notice in my hand. It came from Tsinghua University, the real Tsinghua University. I had earned it through my Gaokao score. I didn't compete with you, I said. Her lips tightened. You knew the future. You knew my father was lying. You knew I planned to leave the exhibition center. You could have stopped everything. I warned the class. You didn't warn me privately. I sent the official response to the group. You wanted me to be humiliated. You wanted me to miss the Gaokao. She became silent. I continued. In my previous life, you succeeded. You took the real examination. While the rest of us were locked inside, you blamed me for collecting the money. You watched my family lose everything. Her face gradually changed. So you were reborn too? Yes. She took one step backward. That's why you reported us early. Yes. You used everyone to expose my father. No, I shook my head. Your father created the scam. You promoted it. Teacher Liu approved it. The students chose it. I simply refused to stand beneath the falling wall. Her eyes filled with hatred. You destroyed my life. I looked at her calmly. The fake program destroyed your life. You knew it was fake. Missing the Gaokao destroyed your life. You planned to make me miss it. Your classmates hate you. You abandoned them first. Every accusation returned to her. She could not find a single consequence that had not begun. With her own decision, tears rolled down her face. Why did you get another chance? I don't know. Why didn't I? You did. She froze. You returned to the same morning. With all your memories. You knew what your father planned. You could have exposed him. You could have taken the Gaokao honestly. You could have warned the class. You used your second chance to repeat the same betrayal. I held up my admission notice. This isn't something Rebirth gave me. I earned it. After I returned, she stared at the red cover. For the first time, the hatred in her eyes became confusion. Perhaps she finally understood that she had never envied my life. She had envied the visible result, while refusing to endure the work behind it. I walked past her. Behind me, she asked, "Do you forgive me?" No, her breath caught. "But I don't hate you anymore." Why? Because your life no longer has anything to do with mine. I entered the apartment building. The door closed behind me. Epilogue: the correct examination hall in September. I arrived at Tsinghua University. Tang Miao entered a medical university in the south. He Yan studied computer science in Shanghai. We created a small online page teaching high school students how to verify special admission programs. Tsinghua University's admissions office later linked to it in an anti-fraud announcement. On the first day of orientation, I walked beneath the Real University gate. Students pulled suitcases across the wide avenue. Volunteers handed out maps. Parents took photographs beneath the stone sign. There were no secret contracts, no confiscated identity cards, no promises of guaranteed success. I presented my admission notice and received my student card. My photograph appeared beside my real name, Su Qinghe. No one else had signed for me. No one else had chosen the road. My mother called, just as I entered the dormitory. "Have you arrived?" "Yes." "Did you find the correct building?" I looked through the window at the bright campus. Yes. This time, I had found the correct place. On the morning of the Gaokao, my classmates had believed that choosing the easier door made them smarter. They laughed at me for entering an ordinary examination hall. But there had never been anything ordinary about protecting my own future. I had sat at my desk, written my own name, completed my own paper, and accepted the result of my own choices. That was something no schoolbell, biased teacher, or false promise could ever steal. I opened the new notebook on my desk. On the first page, I wrote one sentence. A shortcut controlled by someone else is only a trap. With better decorations. Outside, the orientation bell rang. I closed the notebook and walked toward my first university class. My new life had finally begun. Story 2. The pain ripped through me like a blade of fire, tearing a scream from my throat. Before I could even think, my body convulsed, every nerve screaming in agony as the familiar, crushing pressure of childbirth seized me once more. A nurse's voice cut through the haze, sharp and urgent. "Push! Mother, you need to push." I gasped, my mind reeling. This was it. I was back in the delivery room, back in the throes of labor, back on the day my son was born, the day everything began to unravel. The memories flooded in, each one a fresh wound. My husband, Li Qi, had spent that day rushing around for my sister-in-law, Wanli, preparing her birthing supplies, picking out the finest meals for her. For me, I got her leftovers, her cast-offs. The anger had sent me into early labor, and he hadn't even been there. He'd been pacing outside Wanli's operating room, while I signed my own C-section consent form, my hand trembling with pain and rage. I'd blacked out from the sheer torment. When I woke, we'd both given birth to sons. After that, Wanli showered my son, Li Wen, with everything: love, gifts, indulgence. But her own son, Li Jian, she treated like dirt. Beatings, neglect, cruelty. I pitied the boy, wanted to help, but Li Qi had snapped at me. Focus on Huan. What happens in your sister-in-law's house is none of your business. I'd let it slide. I quit my job to homeschool Huan, molding him into a top scholar, a provincial champion. Meanwhile, Wanli forced Li Jian to drop out of middle school and sent him to a sweatshop. He got lung cancer from the dust. Young, dying. Then Huan killed someone in a drunk driving accident. Wanli dragged Li Jian from his hospital bed to take the blame. I begged him, kneeling, to save my son. He was the only one in the Li family who'd ever shown me kindness. I'd paid for his surgery out of gratitude. He confessed. He died in prison by his own hand later. I came home early from a trip and heard Huan call Wanli mom. Then he said, "I hate Qinjiao. When are we going to kill her?" I'd lost it. I stormed in, demanding the truth. For a second, they were stunned. Then Wanli smirked. "So what if you know? Your real son is dead?" One pointed at me, voice dripping with venom. "You forced me to study, kept me from Roar, banned me from KFC and bubble tea, refused me startup money. Now I get it. You're not my real mother. You never loved me. You just wanted a trophy son. But you took Li Qian to KFC, gave him cancer treatment money. Mother and son, blood calling to blood." Li Qian adjusted his glasses, cold as ice. "Shinji, I never loved you. I've always loved my sister-in-law. But your family had money, and I needed it to rise. Lily suffered in the shadows for years. We finally made it. Now die." They shoved me out the window, told the cops I'd fallen by accident. Then they lived happily ever after on my fortune. The hatred surged through me like a tidal wave, hot and blinding. I gritted my teeth and pushed with everything I had. This time, the child I'd had via C-section in my past life came out naturally. The pain was too much. I blacked out. When I woke, Wanli and I were in the same hospital room. She was still unconscious. Li Qian stood nearby, his gaze fixed on her, with a tenderness that made my stomach churn. I bit back the bile and called out, "Husband." He turned, annoyed. "What?" I roared. "Go get me a glass of water. I'm dying of thirst." "And where are your eyes looking? Is that your wife? That's your sister-in-law. Are you planning to commit incest?" The nurse hanging Wan Li's froze, eyes wide. "That's not your wife." Li Qian's face cycled through shades of white and green, muttering. He grabbed a cup and slunk out. Our room was on the 3rd floor. The water dispenser was on the 1st. The moment the nurse left, I ignored the searing pain between my legs and swapped the 2 babies. Thank God Li Qian had bought identical outfits. He'd spent ages picking out the best for Wan Li's son. Then, just told the clerk to wrap up the same for mine. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. But Li Qian took forever outside doing God knows what, and didn't come back. After the switch, I finally let out a breath, because I'd gone into early labor. Wanli had opted for a C-section to match my timeline. She still had a fresh scar across her belly. Soon, the anesthesia wore off. Wanli stirred, looked at the baby, then shot me a smug, veiled glance. What a coincidence. We gave birth on the same day. I smiled coldly and said nothing. She shrugged, pulled out her phone, tapped a few times. Within a minute, Li Qi was back, his water cup long gone. "Sister-in-law, you're awake. What do you want to eat?" he asked eagerly. When Li glanced at me, "Shinji, what would you like? I'll have Li Qi buy it." I met her triumphant eyes. "Sister-in-law, is Li Qi my husband or yours? Do I need your permission to ask him to get me food?" Likaya se face hardened. Shinji, do you know what you're saying? She's my sister-in-law. My brother's gone. I have an obligation to take care of her. Take care. Take her to bed. He froze, suspicion flickering in his eyes. What the hell are you talking about? Sister-in-law was even more furious. Her face twisted, with rage as she spat out. Shinji, do you even know how to talk? What do you mean by taking care of me in bed? I'm your sister-in-law. Are you trying to ruin my life? Lichi looked at me, with a disappointed gaze, his eyes heavy, with judgment. You've always been like this, suspicious of everything. When I work overtime, with a female colleague, you think I'm cheating. When I go out to eat, with friends, you call me a dozen times in an hour to check up on me. Now, just because I'm taking care of my sister-in-law, you're accusing me of something. He paused, letting the silence stretch, then added, do you even know what the most important thing is between two people? It's trust. It's space. His voice hardened as he delivered the final blow. If you keep this up, I'm divorcing you. Lichi knew I loved him so much that I had cut ties with my own family to be with him. So, he used to treat us in advance, confident that I wouldn't dare push back. I let out a small laugh. Fine, let's get a divorce. If you apologize to my sister-in-law. Lichi's eyes snapped to mine, disbelief flickering across his face. What did you? Just say. You said you want a divorce, didn't you? Bring it up first. I'm agreeing. Let's go to the courthouse right now. Lichi stared at me for a long moment, then forced a smile. Shinji, I'm telling you playing hard to get won't work. Be careful you don't take it too far. He leaned in slightly, his tone softening into a mock concession. Just apologize to my sister-in-law, and I'll forgive you. Wanli chimed in from the side, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Sister-in-law, don't say things in anger. You just had a baby. If you divorce Lichi, who would still want you? Lichi heard that, and grew even more certain that I was bluffing. After all, this was his favorite trick, pretending to pull away to reel someone back in. Just then, the hospital room door slammed open, with a heavy kick, and a burly, broad-shouldered man strode in, who said, no one wants her, even if no one else does. Our family can afford to raise a woman, and a child, big brother, I said softly. Lichi straightened up, his posture stiffening as he turned to me. Did you call him here? Lichi was a poor phoenix, who had flown out of a mountain village. Handsome, hard-working, and persistent. That was why I had fallen for him, insisting that we be together no matter what. My family was wealthy. At first, Lichi played hard to get, cold-shouldering me, saying we weren't from the same world. Who else in this world would be so unmoved by money? That only made me more determined to be with him. So I acted like a lovesick fool, spending money on Lichi, having my family provide him with resources. Lichi would always purse his lips coldly and say, I'll pay all of this back to you. He even wrote me an IOU. He treated my family the same way, proud, unyielding, never speaking politely. My parents initially thought he might not be the typical gold digger, but after spending time with him, they realized he had nothing but arrogance, no real talent. So, they forbade me from being with him. Lichi tried to break up with me, but I was like a woman possessed. I cut ties with my family just to stay with him. My family had no choice but to give in. Still, they were smart enough to keep a safety net. The house and car we lived in were all under my parents' names. Let's go to the divorce court, I said. My brother took out a fluffy hat and placed it gently on my head, then wheeled the wheelchair over. Seeing that we were serious, Lichi panicked. Shinji, I only said divorce in anger. We've been through so much together. Are you really willing to throw it all away? Hurry up, or the courthouse will close. You're not just worried about losing my family's money, are you? Lichi hated nothing more than being accused of being with me for my family's wealth. The moment he heard that, his face contorted with rage. Fine, let's go right now. Whoever chickens out is a dog. His company had already achieved some success. 2 projects were in the pipeline, and once they were completed, he stood to make at least $200 million. He still wanted my family's money. He figured that once our son grew up, the assets under my name would eventually be his. The asset division went quickly. In front of my brother, he hypocritically offered to give me shares. I didn't dare accept. His company was about to implode. In my past life, I had used my family connections to save it. This time, without my help, I wanted to see how his broken company would survive. When I got home, I ordered all of his and his sister-in-law's belongings to be cleared out. Then I hired professional postpartum care for myself. My brother asked me to come stay at the family home. I refused. When Li Qi found out I had thrown out their things, he was furious. He drove back immediately, intending to haul everything away. I had my people block him. Shinji, we're already divorced. What are you doing? I'm telling you, it's too late to change your mind now. I sat in my wheelchair and said calmly, leave the car. It was bought for me by my parents. Li Qi scowled and tossed the car keys at me. Who said I wanted your car? I was just bringing it back to you. That same afternoon, Li Qi drove a luxury car with Wanli beside him and bought the house right next to mine. He moved in triumphantly. I figured they wanted to stay close to their child. I didn't care. Let them watch. I was curious to see how Li Jian would turn out under his own parents' care this time around. Just as I expected, that very night, a sudden, piercing baby cry erupted from next door. Wanli came pounding on my door, her footsteps urgent. The loud knocking woke my son from his sleep, and he started crying in fright. I opened the door annoyed. Wanli stood there in a silk nightgown, impatience flickering across her face. My son is hurt. Li Qi isn't home. Can you drive me to the hospital? She peered at me, searching for a sign of concern on my face. Seeing that I remained completely expressionless, disappointment washed over her. I said flatly, fine, go get the child. She went back and brought out Li Jin. I saw that his right calf had somehow snapped. The bone had pierced through the skin, and there was a lot of blood. I hated this child, but even I couldn't help feeling a chill at such a gruesome sight. Without a word, I grabbed my car keys and drove them to the hospital. All the way there, Li Jin wailed nonstop. Impatiently, I turned up the volume on the car stereo. At the hospital, Li Jin was rushed into the emergency room. A moment later, the doctor came out saying Li Jin had lost too much blood and needed an urgent transfusion, but the hospital didn't have enough A-positive blood. He asked, who could donate? Wanli quickly shook her head. No, I'm his mother. Direct blood relatives can't donate blood. I shook my head. Too. I'm type B, Shinji. Aren't you type A? Wanli's face suddenly twisted, with fear as she stared at me. I spoke seriously. You're remembering wrong. Don't you remember when Li Qi and I did a full family checkup before the divorce, and you said Li Jin and I were type B? Wanli's mind flashed back to that day, when she and Li Qi had mocked me about it. How could Li Jin be type A? Isn't he or? And Li Qi's? She murmured under her breath. What did you say? I pretended not to hear. Wanli quickly clamped her mouth shut. I said nothing. The doctor was getting impatient, but luckily a man nearby happened to be type A and donated 200 cubic centimeters. Several medical staff added another 1,000 cubic centimeters, just enough to cover the need. Wanli paced back and forth outside the emergency room, putting on a show of a worried mother. But I knew she was growing suspicious. Soon enough, she couldn't hold it in any longer and slipped off to the stairwell to call Li Qi. Honey, did you really swap our child with Shinji's that day? Of course I did. I swapped them myself. How could it be fake? What's wrong? Did Shinji find out we switched the kids? The doctor just said that little bastard is type A. But you and Shinji are both type B, and I'm the only one who's type A. A shiver ran down Wanli's spine. That child, could it be yours? And mine? What? No. I swapped them myself. There's no way Shinji could have discovered it. Wanli thought for a moment. Then a sudden realization dawned on her. Then that kid must be Shinji's from cheating with someone else, right? Li Qi remembered that around the time I got pregnant, I had been working late with a male colleague from the company. He immediately bought into the lie that she dared to cuckold me. I'll make sure neither of them has an easy time. Wanli quickly calmed him down. Don't act rashly. Wait until our son gets his hands on the Shin family fortune. Then we can finish them both off. Seeing Wanli hang up, I hurried back to the emergency room entrance. A few moments later, Wanli sauntered back, her eyes now carrying a mix of contempt and resentment toward me. I just found it ridiculous. Poor Li Jian. Really unlucky. The blood type issue had been neatly swept under the rug like that. Li Jian stayed in the hospital for a full week. Before coming home, the very day he returned, heart-wrenching cries of an infant erupted from the house next door. I opened my door to take a look. Their door was wide open. Clearly they wanted me to see, wanted me to hear my son being tortured, but they had no idea that wasn't my son. It was their own. The child's face and arms were covered in blisters, and steam still rose from the hot water pooled on the floor. Seeing me open my door, Lichi gave me a fake smile. I accidentally lost my grip on the cup and spilled boiling water on him. Now that he knew Li Jian was a bastard, he wanted revenge on both me and the child, but since we were divorced, he didn't dare lay a hand on me. Li Jian had been in the hospital, so he couldn't beat the kid there, either. Now that Li Jian was back, he was going to take his anger out properly. This man was terrifying. I shivered, but it wasn't my problem anymore. If I hadn't been reborn, my own son would have suffered this fate in my past life. None of this happened probably because I had stood up to them, making them hate me, and my child even more. At my son's full-month banquet, Li Qi and Wanli showed up uninvited. When Li Qi found out I had named my son Xinyu, he pulled me aside. Xinji, that's my son. He can only take my surname, Li. Come with me right now to change his name. I just said one thing to him. Oh, then do you want custody? He immediately shut his mouth and slunk away. One reason was that he had no time to raise a child, and Wanli was just a pretty rural woman. The kid wouldn't turn out as well under them as under my guidance. The other reason was that if I lost custody, I might remarry and have another child, and then Xinyu wouldn't inherit everything. Li Qi slunk back to the banquet and shot Wanmei a look. Wanli stepped forward. She was fair-skinned and slender, wearing a light blue cheongsam, with only a plain silver hairpin. Yet, she smiled warmly as she handed my son a jadeite green amulet. How can you give such an expensive gift? You and Li Qi aren't doing well. I pretended to refuse. Wanli smiled gently. Don't say that. I may not have your family background, but I know your son deserves the best things in the world. Look at what your relatives and friends gave. Mine is nothing compared to theirs. It was true. I was a woman of the Shin family. Everyone at the table was wealthy. Some gave houses, some gave cars, and some even gave shares from the old man. A jadeite green amulet. Really? Wasn't much. I asked her, what about your son? No full-month banquet for him. My sister-in-law shrugged carelessly. He killed his father. Why would I throw him a full-month banquet? I was already kind enough to give birth to him. But that child was actually Li Qi's, and Li Qi's brother was killed by Li Qi and Wanli working together. Li Qi's brother had worked late until 11 o'clock at night and come home. Wanli insisted on eating a small cake. He said he'd buy it tomorrow, but Wanli said it wasn't her craving. It was their son's. Her husband was pressured into giving in. He got into a car, whose brake lines had been tampered with, and drove off to buy the cake. On the way, the car crashed into a river, and he drowned. Li Qi and Wanli finished giving their gifts and cuddled the baby for a while, only handing him back to me when their arms got sore. Your son is so handsome. I wish I could have a son this good-looking. Her words won a round of praise from the people around. After entertaining the guests for a while, I felt tired and took the baby home, leaving everything to my parents. But my sister-in-law followed me, holding a frail little boy in her arms. Thin-haired, listless, looking like a gust of wind would knock him over. Something's come up at Li Qi's company. Are you heading home now? Can you give me a ride? I quickly said, this is your child. Why is he so small and weak? Don't stand in the draft. Get in the car. I'll take you home. In his past life, Li Qi's company had imploded on this very day. Their product had been flagged for plagiarism. He had rushed me away from our child's full moon banquet, begging me to ask my parents for help, while he himself stayed behind at the hotel with Wanli. entertaining the guests. And the reason Wanli and Li Qi had been living so frugally lately, they had poured every last cent into that project. Hearing my words, Wanli smiled and said, "That's my son, born with a lowly fate, but I can't just abandon him, can I?" Every day, Li Qi and Wanli called Li Jian little bastard or little wretch. One time, Aunt Zhang passed by and couldn't stand it anymore. She scolded them a few words. Instead of stopping, they doubled down, convinced that Aunt Zhang would surely report their behavior to me. Of course, they knew I wouldn't care about the child, but when the truth finally came to light, every single day of this abuse would become a knife aimed straight at my heart. I lowered my head, gently patting Xinyu in my arms, a deep sorrow settling in my chest. So this is how much Li Qi hated me. Too bad he wasn't tormenting my son. He was tormenting the son he had, with his own sister-in-law. As she spoke, her face still wore that innocent, playful smile. Her slender fingers reached up to touch her own pockmarked cheeks. But maybe the motion was too rough, because the child started crying. Only his cries were as faint as a kitten's mew, barely audible. He struggled a few times, then fell silent. I said, "Nothing." She let out another light laugh. "Don't think I'm being too harsh. This child is cursed, doomed 6 relatives. Before he was even born, he killed his father right after birth. He made me hemorrhage so badly I had to have my uterus removed. I don't dare get close to him, but I can't just throw him away, can I? So I just raise him like a stray cat or dog." Aunt Zhang, holding Xinyu, said indignantly, "What curse? That's all nonsense. You're a modern woman. How can you believe such things?" Wanli ignored her, keeping her eyes fixed on me. I focused on driving, seeing that I wasn't responding. She jabbed Li Jian hard again. She didn't stop until he burst into loud wails. As I got out of the car, I heard her mutter, "Mother and child bonded at heart. What a joke." That evening, Li Qi came back looking utterly defeated. Soon, sounds of crying and arguing drifted from their place. I ate 2 full bowls of rice, using their noise as my dinner music. It wasn't until the neighbors downstairs couldn't take it anymore and came up to tell them to the peace that they finally quieted down. Li Qi and Wanli sold off their house, car, jewelry, and valuables to pay off debts. They could only rent a small apartment in the neighborhood, but Wanli often came over to my place to sit. I was happy to see her being kind to my son, so I welcomed her visits. As time passed, Xinyu and Li Jian grew up. Xinyu started learning to read at 3, and by 4, he was directly enrolled in our kindergarten. I asked Wanli if she wanted to enroll her son, too. She quickly waved her hand and refused, saying the tuition was too expensive. They couldn't afford it. I knew she wouldn't want to spend that much money sending my son to such a good school. That's the only reason I even offered. After she refused, I didn't bring it up again. Later, I found out that, when Li Jian was 5, still as scrawny as a kitten, with sparse hair, a ruined left side of his face, and a body covered in scars, she finally sent him to a substandard kindergarten next to the neighborhood. Wanli said, her face full of determination, "As long as the child is smart, he can succeed anywhere. Look at Li Qi. He never even went to kindergarten. And look how well he's doing now." I clicked my tongue. Well, Li Qi was practically bankrupt, begging left and right for projects. They thought I didn't know, but people who knew our connections had already told me everything. And did I come back to this life just to get revenge on them? I had started my own company using the information gap from my past life. I had snatched countless projects from under Li Qi's nose. I had only founded this company 2 or 3 years ago, but with my family's connections and my insider knowledge, it had already reached a market value of 1.5 billion. And Li Jian, he was never cut out for studying. In my past life, if I hadn't pushed him relentlessly, applying constant pressure, there's no way Li Qi would have made it past 9th grade, let alone into high school. That day, I got off work early and picked up my son from kindergarten. On my way back, I ran into Wanli beating Li Jian in the middle of the neighborhood. "How shameless can you be? Why did you hit that other kid?" Wanli slapped Li Jian across the face. His frail, windswept body crumbled to the ground. He sobbed. "Mom, he called me a monster first. Please don't hit me." Watching him cower like that, I felt a flicker of pity, just the basic sympathy any human would feel. But I wouldn't say a single word for him. He deserved every bit of this. Everyone in the neighborhood knew how badly Li Qi and Wan Li treated Li Jian. Many people pitied him, spoke up for him, even gave him food. But then Li Jian would eat the food, fake a stomachache, and demand money. He would also sneak garbage into the homes of those who had defended him, just because he was jealous of their children. Now, even though he was getting beaten again, not a single person in the neighborhood stepped up to help him. Wan Li screamed, "Aren't you a monster? Look at your own face. And you're afraid of being called out. Now they're asking me for money." Just thinking about the compensation the other family demanded made her wince. With pain. After all, they could barely afford meat anymore. Wan Li punched and kicked Li Jian relentlessly. "It's all your fault. You cursed disaster. You monster." Li Qi, looking exhausted, came home from work. He didn't even bother to intervene, just glanced at the scene, and went inside. Wan Li's rampage continued until a child was bleeding from his head. Watching him cry uncontrollably, many people's faces showed pity, but no one dared to say a word. Eventually, someone couldn't stand it anymore, and secretly called the police. Li Qi ordered Li Jian to beg the police not to take his mother away. Li Jian didn't dare defy his father's command, and he couldn't bear to see Wan Li taken into custody. He clung to the police officer's leg, crying and thrashing, refusing to let them take Wan Li away. The police had no choice since it was a parent disciplining their own child. They could only give a few warnings and leave. Seeing me, Wan Li's eyes gleamed with triumph. "What? Shinji? Feeling sorry for him? Don't you dare feel sorry for him. He's just a worthless little bastard, not worth anyone's pity." With that, she scooped up a handful of dirt from the ground and pressed it onto Li Jian's wound. "Let me stop the bleeding for him." I stood still, not moving. Li Qi also spoke up. "My sister-in-law can take care of the child herself. Don't meddle in other people's business. Your most important task right now is to take care of our son." Li Jian was crying loudly from the pain, but Wan Li remained completely unmoved. She still felt unsatisfied, pursed her lips, and tossed the child onto the ground. Her eyes were full of pride. "What? Shinji, do you think this child is pitiful? Does your heart ache?" "Not really, but I truly began to doubt the saying that a mother and child share a heart, because Wan Li and Li Qi didn't seem to have any heartache at all. I didn't say anything. They then swaggered away, with Li Jian obediently following behind them. But when Li Jian got up from the ground, I saw the deep-seated hatred in his eyes. Thinking back to my past life, when I wouldn't let him play video games or eat junk food, he wanted to kill me. I wonder what fate has in store for Li Qi and Wan Li in this life. But my own son, I raised him well, with the experience from my past life. Although I didn't like him eating junk food, I would still take him out to try it occasionally. Shin's stomach was just as delicate as Li Jian's in my past life. On the night he wanted to eat junk food, he got diarrhea. Luckily, I didn't let him eat too much, and he got better after taking medicine. After that, he never ate junk food again. I was willing to let him try things, to fall and get hurt, but I would always be there to catch him. Unlike in my past life, where I held that child in the palm of my hand, coddling him. Shinwu was smart, had good self-discipline, and his academic performance was always excellent. He also fell in love with the piano. By the time he entered middle school, he had already passed level 5. Wan Li and Li Qi were extremely satisfied. They often brought gifts for my son, even if they couldn't afford to eat or dress well themselves. They would squeeze out money to buy him Apple phones and Apple computers. Fortunately, my son was very sensible and wasn't addicted, so I didn't confiscate them. As for Li Jian, because of the burn scars on his face and his own personality, he was always cowering, walking close to the wall, with his head down, but in reality, he was dark and twisted inside. I saw him once again torturing a stray cat to death in the back of the neighborhood. When he saw me, his eyes were filled with jealousy and hatred. because his mother and Li Qi would beat and scold him, but they treated my son incredibly well. I was afraid he might harm my son, so I simply moved to another house, which was also closer to my son's school. When Wan Li and Li Qi wanted to come see me, I told them directly not to tell Li Jian where we lived, because I was afraid that Li Jian's jealousy over their kindness to my son would make him hurt him. They readily agreed, because they still thought this was their son, and they shared my concern. Why did I do this? Because I wanted them to experience the same feelings I had in my past life. The better they treated my son now, the more regret they would feel. When they learned the truth, the worse they treated Li Jian now, the more pain they would feel later. At 15, my son Xinwu entered the best high school in the city. In the best class, Li Qi and Wan Lian sent another expensive gift. After they reluctantly left, Xinyu asked me, "Mom, what's the deal with Dad and Aunt Wang? Why are they so good to me and so bad to their own son?" He didn't like Li Qi or Wang Li, only maintaining the most basic respect. Even when Li Qi and Wang Li wanted to take him to amusement parks or KFC, he remained unmoved. On one hand, it was because he despised their abusive children. On the other hand, Xinyu had already learned to travel abroad with his bodyguards when the school organized trips to Switzerland or the US for study tours. I never missed a single one. In my past life, my son suffered too much. In this life, as long as it didn't affect his studies at the moment, I would compensate him doubly, taking him to see the world, to experience life. Not letting it affect his studies was also for his future, so he could stand on his own 2 feet and inherit the property under my name. His horizons were already far beyond what amusement parks and KFC could satisfy. After thinking for a moment, I told Xinyu the whole story of my past life. I was worried he wouldn't believe me, but to my surprise, he actually believed such an absurd story. He hugged me and cried, "Mom, I will always love you." I was very relieved and told him not to be corrupted by Wang Li and Li Qi's sugar-coated bullets. He waved his fist. "They killed you. How could I ever fall for their sugar-coated bullets?" He never mentioned that he had also died because of them. As for Li Jian, his grades were too poor, and he didn't get into high school, so they sent him to a sweatshop. Finding a sweatshop in Shanghai was no easy task. They really put a lot of effort into it. I heard he had to work 18 hours a day, and all he got to eat was plain broth. His wages were actually quite high, but Wang Li demanded that the boss deposit them into her account. The boss used child labor. The facilities were substandard, and he was always walking the line of the law, so he hired a lot of security guards to watch the factory. Li Jian wasn't as obedient as Xinyu. He tried to escape, but they broke his leg and dragged him back. The boss only compensated Wang Li with 30,000 yuan. Wang Li, still wearing old clothes, immediately turned around and bought something for Xinwu. Xinwu accepted it without hesitation. Li Qi was a bit dissatisfied because over the years, under the siege of major companies, his own company had long gone bankrupt, and he now had to work for others. "At least keep some for ourselves," he said. Wang Li replied, "That's our biological son. We've already failed him by not being able to be by his side all these years. What's wrong with spending a little money?" Li Qi had nothing to say. One day, he came to find me. "Xinwu, I regret it. I shouldn't have agreed to the divorce back then. I still love you. You haven't found anyone all these years. Aren't you waiting for me? Let's get back together and give Xiaoyu a complete family." It's funny to say, after I divorced him, he never openly married Wang Li. The two of them are still living in a messy situation. People tried to set them up with others, but they refused. They just won't get married. No one knows what's going on. Wang Li appeared behind him at some point, gritting her teeth as she watched the scene. When she saw me looking at her, she forced a strained smile. Li Qi was still trying to confess his feelings to me, but I sidestepped him. "Sorry, my boyfriend is here to pick me up." The tall and handsome Jiang Yuan took my hand. "Why are you off work so late today?" I smiled. "Had some unfinished business. I'm off tomorrow, so let's take Xiaoyu and Xiaoyu out to play." Jiang Yuan was also on his second marriage, except his first wife had passed away from illness. We met in a class group chat. Pretty trendy. Actually, we had a little online romance. Li Qi stared at me in disbelief. You have a boyfriend? Xin Wu. How could you betray me? That was disgusting. We'd been divorced for over a decade. And he was still talking about betrayal or not. I furrowed my brows, looking at him, with disgust. Who are you? I am. He stammered, unable to form words. He just watched as Jiang Yuan, and I drove away that night. He called me. Xin Wu, come back. I still love you. Just break up with him, and we can go back to how we were. I don't believe you could love someone else. I asked him, what are you barking about? Which part of you is better than my boyfriend? How dare you ask me to break up with him and be with you? He turned furious and humiliated. Shinji Tao, you'll regret this. The news spread that he and Wanli were getting married. Seeing that I still hadn't made a move, he finally broke down and got the marriage certificate with Wanli. Though they didn't hold a wedding banquet, everyone had long suspected their relationship, but now it was finally confirmed. Rumors flew around their neighborhood, and both of them were too embarrassed to go out much. Jianjun was cooking in the kitchen and asked me, do you want to get married? I thought for a moment. Neither of us is short on money, and we both have kids. Let's just stay together like this. No marriage. All my assets were going to my son, even though I really liked Xiaoyun. She wasn't my biological daughter. After all, I didn't want to be bound by marriage again either. Jianjun agreed. At 18, Xinyu scored 716 on the college entrance exam, becoming the top scorer, 14 points higher than Li Jian from his past life. Reporters and admissions officers crowded around the school gate, interviewing Xinyu. That's when Li Che and Wanli pushed their way in. Wanli grabbed Xinyu's hand, crying and laughing. It turns out you're my son. Xinyu shook off their hands and walked over to me. Wanli didn't care now. She was trembling with excitement, waiting to see me fall apart, to see me in despair. Back then, Shinji Tao and I gave birth at the same hospital. In the same room, the nurse mixed up our babies. She looked at me with eyes full of malice and anticipation. It wasn't surprising. Recently, there'd been a bull market, and Li Che had thrown all his money in, even borrowing from loan sharks. The moment he invested, it crashed. The loan sharks were hounding him for repayment. He almost jumped off a building. But then he remembered he had a son who owned shares in the Shin family company, and hope reignited. If Xinyu just waved his hand, this little problem would be solved. Right. But I just looked at them without saying a word. Their expressions slowly froze. Why aren't you upset? Then a reporter snapped to attention and asked, Ma'am, could you elaborate on what you just said? Wanli paused, then said word by word. Back then, Shinji Tao and I gave birth at the same hospital. The nurse mixed up our babies. Li Jian was diagnosed with lung cancer. We went for a match test today and found out Li Jian isn't my biological son. He's Shinji Tao's son. She emphasized the word cancer. But I still looked expressionless. She shouted, say something. Don't you want your son? He's your flesh and blood. Now he has cancer. Are you just going to ignore him? You're his real mother. Even if you didn't raise him, he still has Shin family blood. I let out a breath, trembling with emotion myself. I asked them, did you really go for the match test that early? Wanli looked a bit guilty, but Li Qi said boldly, of course. That's my son. How could I not take care of him? I said, if you did the match test, then how come you didn't realize they were your own biological sons? The reporters gasped again, firing off questions. Wanli's face stiffened. What do you mean? She said frantically. The nurse mixed up the babies. That's your son. Xinyu is my son. Miss Shin, are you refusing to acknowledge your own son now? Miss Shin, do you favor Xinyu as your successor? Your biological son is in the hospital. Are you just going to leave him? This was huge news. The top scorer, the Shin family of Shanghai, the switched heirs. Every angle was explosive. I continued. On the day of the birth, I knew the nurse had mixed up our babies. So, when you went out to get water, I switched them back myself. Under their stunned gazes, I went on. You've been way too harsh on Li Jian all these years. He's your own son, Wanli. You scalded his face with boiling water. You beat and scalded him every day. As soon as he finished middle school, you sent him to a sweatshop. The boss there broke his leg. Now he has cancer. So you too abused him, because you thought Li Jian was my son. Why? Why did you do that? How could you bear it? I collapsed into Xinyu's arms, sobbing. Xinyu patted my back to comfort me. Mom, don't be sad. You've been good to Li Jian. You gave him food and drinks, sometimes even money. But it's his misfortune to have parents like that. It's not your fault. The food and drinks weren't actually for me. And Jiang couldn't stand to watch and send them. I couldn't tell Aunt Jiang about the past life. So I just let it be. Luckily, Li Jin's twisted personality made Aunt Jiang decide to keep her distance. Later on, Xiaoyu was clever. He seized the chance to paint me in a positive light, helping the Xin family stir up another wave of publicity. The journalists erupted into a frenzy, their voices overlapping as they whipped around to face the two of them. So, you're saying you thought your son was a mess, Xin's child, and that's why you treated him so cruelly? One demanded. Was it for the Xin family's fortune? Another pressed. Why do you hate Miss Xin so much? A third shouted. The way they framed it, it sounded like I, the victim, was somehow to blame. And Wanli's expression froze solid, her face draining of color. You. What did you say? She stammered, her voice trembling. I repeated myself, each word deliberate and cold. I knew the babies were switched, so I swapped them back myself. The child I exchanged back, Li Jin, is your real son. My sister-in-law stared at me, her eyes hollow and unblinking. Then a piercing scream tore from her throat. She lunged at me, arms flailing. Shinji, you knew all along we swapped your child. Why didn't you say anything? Were you gloating, watching us abuse our own flesh and blood? My son, my son. The bodyguards intercepted her, shoving her back. Beside her, Li Qi looked as though he'd aged a decade in an instant. He collapsed to the ground, his legs giving out. No, it can't be like this, he muttered, shaking his head. How could you have known we switched the babies? Then a voice cut through the crowd from behind. Is what you're saying true? Shinji Tao, did you really swap Xinyu and me back? The crowd parted. Li Jin limped in from the outside, his gait uneven and pained. His hideous, scarred face drew gasps from the journalists. His eyes burned with hatred. Why? It wasn't supposed to be this way. In the last life, you didn't swap us back. Seeing the venom in his gaze, I realized he had been reborn, too. With so many reporters here, many of them live streaming, I had to hold back my laughter at all costs. I pinched my thighs so hard it bruised, then forced my face into an expression of unbearable agony. What are you talking about? What last life? This life. I saw the mole behind little Yu's ear. Right. After he was born, I knew the babies were mixed up, so I switched them back. Xinwu added, his voice sharp. Everything you're suffering now is because of your real parents. What does my mom have to do with it? Have you forgotten how they treated you? And you're blaming my mom. Do you really wish they had kept us swapped? That just proves you're no better than them. Li Jin's body trembled violently. His eyes locked onto Xinwu with pure hatred. It was terrifying. If not for the bodyguards holding him back, I was sure he would have lunged at us to kill. My son, it's all my fault, Wanli wailed, clutching Li Jin in a desperate embrace. Li Qi stared blankly at Li Jin's mangled body, his spirit utterly shattered. Li Jin's fists clenched until his knuckles cracked audibly. Then, from beneath his hospital gown, he pulled out a fruit knife. In one swift motion, he drove it into Wanli's chest. Before anyone could react, he shoved her aside and plunged the blade into Li Qi's abdomen again and again. Murder! Murder! The journalists and admissions office staff scrambled behind the bodyguards. Even the bodyguards flinched. Taking a step back, they recovered quickly, kicking the knife out of Li Jin's hand and pinning him to the ground. Li Jin was 18 years old, weighing less than 90 pounds. A single bodyguard held him down with ease. Soon, police and ambulances arrived. The police took Li Jin away. Wanli and Li Qi were loaded onto stretchers. Wanli had been stabbed straight through the heart. She died instantly. Li Qi lingered for a dozen minutes in the ambulance, gasping for breath, before bleeding out. Just as they neared the hospital, Li Jin's murder was broadcast live across the entire country. The case became a national sensation. He was sentenced to death immediately. There was no need for appeals. He was sent straight to prison. The day before his execution, I took Xin Wu to visit him. Li Jin's hair had thinned too. Just a few strands. His gaunt face and dark, hollow eyes made him look like a monster. I know you were reborn, I said. Let me tell you, I was reborn, too. I came back to the day I gave birth. If you hadn't been so heartless in your last life, you wouldn't be where you are today. Li Jin sobbed and screamed. I was your son, too. In the last life, you cooked for me with your own hands, told me stories before bed, helped me with my homework. How could you be so cruel? I let out a bitter laugh. So, you do remember how good I was to you. Then why did you want to kill me? You're nothing but an animal, a stray dog that can't be tamed. This is the karma you deserve. With that, I turned and left, Xinyu by my side. Behind us a commotion erupted. Calm down. 09586. Please calm down. I was supposed to be the top scorer in the college entrance exam. I was supposed to be Shinji Tozawa. Shinji Tozawa, both of you deserve to die. In the next life, I'll destroy you both. Good. Some people never learn. There won't be a next life for him. And if there is, it'll only be to pay back the debts of this one.